This is Michi Hoyer, welcome.
110 liters for the full tank, and then I go.
Yes, exactly. This is Michi Hoyer, and this is another episode of Simracing Academy. Today with Patreon member Kevin Morville, and we're in the Formula Renault 3.5 around the Hungaroring. And today is a very special 2-hour session as we are learning about suspension, we're learning about dampers, and we're learning about how to set these up, how to feel these, and how to to fill the right dampers in just from feel. And Kevin is out to take the car around the track a little first. So today is not really about improving, but mainly about understanding car, understanding physics, understanding the car dynamics, especially in the horizontal area. And I may admit that the Formula Renault is not the very best car, as the front of the suspension is entirely fixed, which we're going to talk about a little further soon in this session. Right now this is standard setup, and I will build something for Kevin here so we can feel a lot, and we can get different ideas about driving. So today's session's gonna be, I'm gonna get him a setup that has the most stiff dampers in the rear back end into first place, and I ask him to do 5, 6, 7 laps, then tell me about the balance without looking at the setup, and then I sent him the very same setup, just with very soft dampers in the rear, so the entire opposite. And then we start fiddling around, getting a feel for all those kind of things. The special things, or the specific things here for the Formula Renault, we're gonna deal with that once we're sitting in pit lane, once we're sitting in the garage. That looks really good in general already. I don't think I'm going to drive a lot here today, as we're not too much into driving lines. They look good, really. He's a little bit too much turning on the wheel, so I can maybe do some more work with that in the end. But we're first gonna work hard on the dampers area and on the suspension area. Have you started on the default setup? Just higher
Yes.
fuel? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So once you're warmed up, just let me know.
Sorry, I don't hear.
Say again?
Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah. Once you are warmed up, just let me know.
Okay, I think I will do just one more lap.
Okay. So in the meanwhile, we are on factory defaults as well, and we're going to speak about the suspension right here. We're going to keep all those values, as they are not relevant, but looking at suspension, you see the special thing here. The front suspension does have softest slow bump, slow rebound, fast bump, fast rebound. The third springs at the front, however, they will be available. I think they are linked to each other, so we're gonna put them very soft indeed. So the front end is now entirely softened on the dampers. However, we're gonna keep the spring rates front and rear. I'm gonna put the rebounds and the bumps extremely hard. All the other stuff we'll leave like this, and gonna save this. And or better, well, we send it to him, but we're also gonna save it as saying all dumpers hard, rear. Also giving that notes. Alright, that looks good. That driving lines are suiting the way we want to work today. So, first I sent you a setup. Please just load it and don't look at it yet, because we are finding out about balance. So my task for you is put another 5 laps in and tell me what you think on it afterwards.
All right.
Right, in the meanwhile, I'm going to open the report for him already, so I can parallelly start working on it while he is driving, because what I'm going to tell you guys is not something very specific, but it's very general, and it applies to general movement of the car, and I kinda will be interested to see his balance, to see his lap times, of course, indeed. So speaking about lap time, I need to open the page here. Bear with me. There we go. So as of right now, the car is set up in, as I said, softest front third spring, softest front spring, and hardest rear spring dampers. That will be interesting, because usually the car now should be kind of reluctant to move weight around in the rear. whereas it should fully grip at the front, saying every little braking makes the weight that is being made movable all the way to the front. So the front should be very grippy in general, being able to quickly let the car roll from left to right, although the real task that's been done by the anti-roll bars there, but still, as there is car on the, roll in the car and forces being dragged left and right, lateral, this also has been adjusted, or also has been influenced by the dampers. Right now the rear end, being so stiff, should have issues getting the traction down, also should have issues getting over the curbs in the rear end. But the overall turning should be really good. Also with the acceleration, there should no understeer come up, as with acceleration the weight tries to go to the back, but the back some sort of refuses to take the weight that quickly. And I'm gonna bring up the Mercedes, not the Mercedes, the Ferrari again here real quick, once I find it. There it is. So basically the dampers movement here right now at the front is very easy. So dampers fluid is so soft and so less pressurized that the springs can move up and down very a lot. Basically it's bouncing up and down all the time, which on this track is some sort of good, because if you got front soft suspension, and regardless of what kind of suspension we got here right now, it keeps elevating, jumping up and down. You can't change that in the car, and this is why the car just behaves as good as it does. But this spin is actually due to the rear dampers refusing taking the weight on. So they slide a lot more, as weight means additional downforce. So the dampers here at the back of the car, they make this movement incredibly hard. So the entire suspension becomes very stiff. And the acceleration movement or the deceleration movement is sort of slow, keeping the weight at the back a lot, which gives us nice braking stability, but it also makes the front end a little too lazy. So we might just have hit the sweet spot here with the dampers already, but we're gonna do a lot of things with them. We're gonna put them into the extreme areas before putting them into the other areas. Some kind of interesting seeing his feedback on it. Especially in those corners, getting the traction down is incredibly hard with the way dampers are set, as they still like the car to keep rotating at it. Okay, so what's your feel?
I feel nothing from the wheel, and I am more confident in the entry of the corners. The car responds more faster I think.
Okay.
And for me that's comfortable.
Okay, perfect. So exactly what I thought. I'm gonna tell you a little more about this, and later I have to talk to him.
But there is one thing I feel the I feel the lack of front end at those corners. This and this one.
Lack of front end, you say?
Yes.
So understeer.
Yes.
This makes kinda.
I don't know if it's because of my driving style or because of the setup.
Could be a little bit of both, but more on the setup in that regard, which we can just do limited wise something about it. You want to do further laps on that?
Maybe one more.
Yeah, okay, sure. So that is very interesting what he says. He says there's no feel for the wheel, which is he means that the force feedback is entirely gone. That is probably more a caster setting, but at the same time he has very good comfortability into the corners, and this is sort of exactly what describes this effect. What I said, it keeps the weight at the back, it keeps the weight, the downforce on the rear axis, giving maximum performance on braking as long as you go straight, and even if you start turning in on the wheel, the weight still likes to stay in the back and therefore pushes the rear tires down, giving grip, or increasing the tire load and giving grip there. So that is definitely an effect from the dampers here. He means exactly that movement, and this could be down to the fast bumps being really low at the front. I'm not sure if we can move around with that, so I'm taking just down some notes. Alright, so that was very interesting feedback. Basically, we're going to do more experimental labs because I'd first like you to show you the extremes either way, and then I'd like to get the fiddling done right with you, if you're alright with that.
Okay.
So once again, just take the setup and don't look at it, just load it and go out, do some laps and tell me what you feel. Or do you have anything to add to this run as of right now?
Uh, for the moment, no. I said for the two corners,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest feeling I have. And but for the other corners, that is like I said on the track.
Yeah, okay. So you got no feel on the wheel, which could be a caster problem rather than anything dumper related. I mean, it gets
Uh,
supported from the dumper, I think.
Yeah, my feeling with the wheel is better since your first set you sent me, and by the way, I feel like a bump of the right corner. I tell you, I have a lack of front end. I don't know if this is the reason, but I feel it. Just in my last lap, I exit the track,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel the bump just before I exit in the corner.
That is turn 9, the right-hander you're talking about, where you exited, right? So after the chicane, the right-hander. If you go for the left and then you go to the right, and the right you
The
went
turn
wide.
line.
Yeah.
Yep. The turn line. Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you why that is. So, right now, I can tell you so much. What we keep stationary for as of right now is the front end has literally no um no dumpers at all right now. They are so soft that the suspension is moving very quickly and very easily. So the moment you hit the bump, you simply get the springs get pressed, but the shock, the actual shock, is not um, being dampened by the car itself. So that makes the car start to jump around on the front end. You know, if you press a spring and just keep it dancing without any friction, it keeps
Yeah,
dancing up and down, and that is
yeah.
basically what sort of happens over the bump, which slightly, um, well, how should I say? You know what tire load is, right?
Yes.
So the moment you have um, a jumping spring, the tire loads up and down, and I'm gonna put my big Ferrari on here. Wait a minute, um, because that's gonna be very interesting in general. Um, Dang, wrong one. If we're speaking about the Ferrari, the Lego Ferrari I do have here, I'm just gonna put the cars on the book. So, um, the tires, when they are touching the ground, they have a specific load according to the gravity and to the amount of downforce being generated.
Yeah.
In that area, let's say the tire is able to deal with a 10,000 Newton as tire load. Now, if the tire load is jumping around between 10,500 Newton and 9,000 Newton, so the load is going up and down, the tire is still attached with the ground. So despite the tire just sort of jumps around 10% of value up and down, I would say, it keeps losing even more grip, like even 20 or up to 30%. So you can speak about the digressive decline of grip while the load of the tire is jumping around. So with the springs being so soft and not and also with the dampers being pretty much not dumping at all, the springs gonna move up and down, lifting the car up and down, and that makes the load of the tire, so the tire load going up and down, and therefore, because it's not steady, make the tire lose the grip, which then in the end makes you go off track. We work on that later, but for now we're just going out with a setup I just sent you. And as I
Yeah.
said, please don't look at it, just drive it and tell me what you think about it.
Just before I go, so the idea is to have the top tire load and the bottom tire load, the difference between the more lowest possible. For example,
Yes,
yeah,
sort of. So what you want to have in a let's say on a bump, the moment you drive over a bump, the car gets lifted, the tire gets lifted up. So there is a force pushing the car upwards from the ground, and the gravity pulls the car down to the road. And that moment, the load of the tire gets increased. Then after the bump, there is some sort of, the force from below pushing the tire up is missing. So that is where the tire load goes down, and you want this movement to be stopped as soon as the bump is finished. So you just want to have that increase of the load, the decrease of the load, and then you want to be as quickly as possible back to a sort of constant tire load again.
okay,
Now, with the springs being badly dampened or not dampened at all, the spring in a perfect world without friction keeps jumping up and down as long as I mean, without friction, it keeps always jumping up and down. And with the dampers, you start to slowly but surely um, taking, you start taking energy from the system. So with every move, that up is a bit dampened, down is a bit dampened, and at some point, the spring's gonna be stationary and without any swinging because of the damper. So that's their actual job. and you want to get that that movement as low as possible, and also the effect of the movement as low as possible.
Okay.
So, as of right now, we got the rear ends entirely soft now, so all values 1-1 in the rear rather than 16-16. And I'm gonna look forward to his feedback. I'm trying to find a graphic here. So anyway, speaking about this tire load thing, we are experiencing that kind of thing where yeah, the tire load hits its maximum of what it can handle anyway. So you know, you're not just increasing the grip of a tire because you put 5 million tons on it. At some point there is a maximum possibility, a maximum possible grip reached, according to his yeah, physics and his abilities. So with that being said, you're gonna hit a specific amount of grip at a certain level, and it does not go beyond that, even if you could put more kilograms and more load on the tires. Also, I think from his driving, he's killing the tires a lot. It's interesting car movement and car behavior here. I think the car is now much more tail happy, because it just loses the weight once you get on the brakes, so he should lose his sort of confidence on the brakes on into the turn in, especially in turn 5. That was easily be seen. Once he touches the curb, car's pretty much gone immediately. In this case though, there is very nice traction, so the car doesn't rotate as good on throttle when the weight goes to the back. So you have to some sort of aggressively push it a little. But the overall turning momentum, the overall turning of the car shall be increased as the weight now goes to the front and goes more quickly to the front. So once you do your turn in, the initial turn in shall be really good. And I'm just looking forward to see what he thinks and to see what he says on the car. This movement, this exact movement when turning into where he needs to catch the slide, this is because of the dampers as of right now. Since the dampers are very soft now, they handle the very same movement than the front. Usually I'd like to put the hard front dampers now and soften the rear in order to make the contrast even more clear. Can't do that on the car though. But yeah, the initial turn in now is so good. As you can see, he turns in slow, then turns more, and then the car still grips at the front because all the weight is there. Yeah, over the bump he's now likely to lose it, and it's not to him being overly aggressive, but it's just the rear end has so much issues keeping the car on the ground with the missing downforce, with the missing weight on the rear, especially on the turn-in. There the weight is all the way to the front, and also now the weight might travel too quickly all around the car. So whatever the car movement is, braking, turn-in, acceleration, the weight is allowed to move freely around wherever it wants to go. Well, wherever the laziness makes it go. And this might be just too quick for the car to handle with. So in that case now, dumper is definitely too soft. You see the turn-in oversteer. So he gets the grips, immediately gets into the slide, then lose the front load. Sorry, lose the front load of the tires, gets into the spin, into the slide. And this was very good as long as tires were cold, but I'm pretty sure now the tires are cooking pretty much. However, of course, you want to have the suspension in general as soft as possible, especially around Hungaroring track. So with the soft dampers and the soft springs, that is as soft as it can be, apart from even softer anti-roll bars now. But I'm interested to hear what he says. I would be surprised if he not mourns about the rear end being some sort of unstable into the turns. His lap time consistency is good though. 32.0, 32.2, 32.1, 32.2. Only the first lap, the 31.6, is some sort of out of the range. But he's done an amazingly middle sector with that. It makes sense though that the car is quicker now, because with the weight now being allowed from the rear end to come to the front end, especially in the cornery sector, so everything that comes up from now, the car can actually grip at the front, taking it really good around the slow turns here, around all these S's coming up where you need the front to grip, where you need the front to be pointy. This is all due to the fact that the rear end now gives way releases the weight to the front, saying, okay, here you got all the weight, deal with it. This is all due to the softest dampers possible. And the reason why this car works like that is maybe also because the front end dampers are set up the very same way. So usually you try to find a balance by trying to adjust the front towards the rears a little in the damper settings, and in that case, it will just find its own balance right in that area. Everything at the softest point. That makes total sense to me. I do not know any car where you got like stiff dampers at the front and soft bumpers at the rear. Even in a Formula 1 car, I suggest the dampers to be some sort of equal, whereas the spring rates are different there. So Formula car always having a stiffer front suspension at the rear, since the rear needs to be able to follow the front. So if you make the front too grippy, and remember all the weight is located at the back, so despite you want to have the weight where you want to have the grip, you know, if you put a lazy mass into sudden movement, it's not going to get well just like that. Perfect explanation anyway. So, what you think?
But sorry, one second.
What do you think on the car? What is you think on the feel?
I have once again I have more information from the wheel, so that's really cool. I prefer in that way, and the car is better in the entry again. For those turns, the 18 and the 9, I don't I don't have the lack again of the front head, and I don't have that big feel of the bump for the ninth corner.
Okay. So that makes can you do me a favor real quick and
Mhm.
load up the setup I sent before?
Yes.
Just load it. Don't drive out.
Okay.
As your car is jumping up left and right in the garage. I'm not sure if it did that before. Does mine do that? No, mine doesn't. You see? Hmm.
You saw the car bumping in the jumping in
In
the
pit,
garage.
yeah.
Uh, the second set you said B was with the extreme value,
Both had extreme values.
because I saw in a with another car I saw that with an extreme value for the bump. I set the car with extreme value, and then
Hmm.
I saw my car jumping in the garage.
Let me test that real quick because it's interesting you say that. I should have same as you. Yeah, mine does that too now, just not as severe. But interestingly, it does it too. Let me see what it is with the hard dumpers. This is very interesting anyway. What you can do is... Bear with me. Yeah, this is a very nice explanation. Actually, it is a big bug in the game, but it is a perfect possibility to show you how the big dumpers or how dumpers work. You can see my car right now jumping up and down, or
Yes.
being that in that weird sideways movement, just as you say. So right now on the car is attached the minimum possible dampening rate in all suspension. So what I did now on the car is I stiffened the slow bump and the slow rebound at the third spring on the front, and I stiffened all the bumpers at the rear suspension. And I click race, and I come back into the garage.
And nothing.
Yeah, and nothing. So we're gonna go even into a more detailed. Let me see. Bear with me. We're gonna go into even more detailed analysis right now. Then you see what the dumpers are doing. Go to tape position 2527.4 and keep it there for a moment.
Can you repeat the number, please?
2527.4. So, and then we go slow mode up to 2500 to 7.995. That is the moment where I sort of get dropped out of the, I don't know what, from the car holders or something. But this is the moment where the car drops on the ground. Tell me when you're at 25279.
Almost.
You there? 2527.9?
Okay.
You there?
Position 2527.894.
894 is alright. Now just go into slow motion, keep going the slow motion, and see how long it takes after the car drops on the ground until it's got stationary. Basically at 2528.7, it just stops any movement, so it's just sitting stationary right there. So the car drops, and within 0.7 of a second, all car movement has been stopped by the dumpers there, right?
Okay, yeah, I saw it.
So you can go a little forwards and downwards for that through that tape at that moment to see how the car sits there with, yeah, hardest dumpers and stiffest dumpers available. And now we're going to do the same thing for the soft dumpers. And therefore you need to go to tape position 2090.5. 2690.5, sorry. 2690.5.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and just go through it again, slow-mo. So the car drops first time to 91. And now see how long it's still jumping up and down. It
Yeah,
barely stops at now. So in this time, it's up to 2 seconds where the car is still bouncing up and down. And now remember, when we're speaking about tire loads, they are bouncing up and down as well, according to the car's movement. So this is the job of the dumpers actually. As you've seen them now taking care of the car movement in that regard. So they are trying to stop, or their major job is trying to stop this movement of going up and down. And this is actually, despite the glitch here in the graphics is quite bad, or is quite, well, inconvenient in that regard. As much it does help explain though what dumpers actually do. So with the soft dumpers and no dampening whatsoever, you allow the spring to do whatever it wants. And with the hard dumpers, you're taking out of every movement, the dumpers start to take away energy from the car and put it into thermal energy, so heat. That's why dumpers get hot in when they are in operation. They actually have pressure vents, and the pressure vents gets pushed, and yeah, there, this change of kinematic energy into thermal energy, or how is it called in English? Entropia. Not sure if that makes sense. Yeah, that is actually what happens. So the kinematic energy is being diverted or converted into warm and heat and thermal energy. So that's how the dampers actually work. Now that you said you have a car that is better in the entry, you have a car that goes good around turn 8 and 9 with no lack of understeer, lack of grip, and you do not feel the bump as much. I can tell you why you don't feel the bump as much. Right now, when the front is soft, and back then, when you felt the bump, the rear was stiff. You felt the bump over the rear rather than on the front. However, the bump was setting the front into movement, and the rear some sort of dropped down on the ground again, and pretty quickly stopped the movement. With that being said, the very soft approach we had, especially in the last couple of laps you did, that made that bump, because it was just a single one, it just sort of avoids it, or it just sort of ignores it. So because your suspension is always going up and down, the bump is just another shock on the manis, so you do not feel the bump that specific. Know what I mean? So with your car going up and down all the time, if you go over a hill going further up and down, you won't feel the difference that much if your car's some sort of stationary at some point, and then it gets shocked by a big valley up and down. I think you get my
okay.
point, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's like when a ship goes over the waves, up and down, up and down. That is what your suspension is always doing. So the ship cannot really feel what is a big wave, what is a smaller wave, unless it's like 15 meters, of course. But if you're on a little boat and there is a little waves going on, you just feel the waves, but you don't feel the height of the waves. However, if the sea is flat, more or less flat, and there is a big wave coming, or a bigger wave, then you feel that one wave. So now if you compare that over to the car, with the car going constantly up and down 5 to 10 millimeters, I want to say, due to the bumps and stuff, you don't feel that bump that is like 15 millimeters big. You don't exactly feel it, or you feel it just less. However, if your car goes stationary or on the road, saying up and down 2 or 3 or 4 millimeters, and then this 15 millimeter bump comes, that really makes a big difference on the car dynamics. And this is the reason why on the softest dumper settings, as you just drove out on the track, you did not feel that bump in turn 8 and 9 too much. And as you say, the car's better on the turn-in. With a soft with the soft dumpers, you allow the rear end weight to move around quickly and freely, more free. I want to say more freer. I think it's grammatically. Anyway, that means with the dampers not being stiff in the back and not sort of avoiding the spring's movement from the braking, from the acceleration. That is when the rear keeps some sort of weight, so the weight is not getting shifted towards the front. That means the front tire load and the front load in general is not as much, which means potentially less grip on the front. And with the car being very soft, as you had it just right there, you allow that movement of the suspension. So once you tap the brake, the rear end's gonna raise its ass in the air and gonna shift all available weight to the front. That gets you some sort of the maximum downforce, the maximum tire load on the front, constantly on the front, and that is why you do not have the understeer going on that much. However, if your springs at the front, if your dampers at the front would be adjustable, you also had this turn and oversteer. You know, you turned in, the car started to swing around, and you sort of had to catch it immediately, didn't you? Especially in the last turn, I saw there's a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is also because the weight is not being stopped from getting at the front. So now, starting to fiddle in the dampers, especially for the middle part of the track, you want pretty soft dampers in the rear, as in you want them to give the possibility to get the weight towards the front. And at the same time, you don't want it entirely soft, as you lose some responsiveness of the car. Of course, you want to keep the rear settled. You want to keep the tire load as constant as possible. Therefore, you want the rebound force always a little higher than the bound force. And that is exactly what we're going to try setting up now.
Okay.
Do you have further questions on what I just tried to explain?
I think it's okay. So for the moment, no.
Okay. Other than that, I also will put the basic rules back in the consultancy report, and then, of course, feel free if you got issues understanding what I'm talking about, to just come up and ask me. So, how would you say, or how would you compare the traction and the grip coming out of the corner compared to the stint you did before? And as well the car rotation. I think right now with the settings you had, you suffered some minor on throttle understeer, isn't it? Or
Minor on throttle, understeer. Minor understeer on the throttle, you say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you had
Okay.
in the second run, right? That was better, so that the car was still rotating a lot in the first run, right?
Yes.
So, and this is exactly the point with the especially the slow bump being stiff in the first run. You sort of made the rear refusing to accept the coming weight. That means the weight still was sort of on the front, and while you keep throttling the rear end has not as much tire load, has not as much grip, also maybe lacks a little bit of traction, but mainly the car keeps its rotation. So it keeps rotating, and that gives you like still a good cornering rotation on throttle out of the accelerating corners, like the final turn, the penultimate turn, turn 10, the quick right-hander ending of second sector. Sorry, that is 11. So in those corners you should really feel a better traction or better rotation on throttle when coming out of the corner with a stiff, slow bump. However, the slow bump makes the actual traction being better. That means the weight comes at the rear more quickly, you get more stability out of the corner, you can simply floor the pedal. It's just losing its possibility of rotating because now the weight goes away from the front and comes back to the rear end, pushing the rear car down and sort of having a lack of downforce, a lack of weight on the front, and therefore you have a little bit unthrottle understeer. So we're now fiddling in the bumps, the slow bump in the rear. You want to have exactly that. A little free movement because it was overall quicker, but still some stiffness in order to keep the weight a little bit more at the front in order to counteract the on throttle understeer. So I'm gonna resend you a setup, which how did you like the car on the braking and in the actual turning? Was it too aggressive or was it just fine?
In the braking zone,
Yeah, braking zone and turning.
um, the I feel that I lock too much the brake in the braking zone. I saw it, so the feeling was quite good, but maybe I don't know if I can just break. Maybe I can just break. How can I say? Maybe I can just put less brake because I lock too much the front when I'm in the braking zone. That's what I felt.
You lock too much on the front or too much on the rear?
Good question. I saw the front wheels
Smoking,
uh,
okay.
having a smoke,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, maybe in some time it's because the rear is locking, so I lock the front after. Yeah, that's possible. For
Okay.
the for example, for the first corner, I think it's front for the
Mm-hmm.
first corner,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe for the 12 or 13. For the 13, I think maybe it's a lock of the rear and then a lock of the foot, maybe.
Okay. So with the rebound being so low as it was now in the other stint, you should also lose a little bit of braking stability because the rear tires have less grip, and at the same brake balance, the load becomes too hard, or the pressure in the rear becomes too hard. So that's why we also reintroduce some rebound. Not as much as a slow bump though. So I'm gonna resend you a setup, and then you can drive that and tell me how it feels afterwards. So,
Okay.
so now that we got the basic movement of suspension and stuff fiddled in, we now have possibilities to see where we find a sweet spot for that initial car, also for him. Remember, dampers are not always being a perfect physical value. Dampers also being used in order to give the car a specific amount or a
Sorry,
specific.
little issue.
um, no worries. Dampers give a car also a possibility to slightly be balanced, you know. So as you have seen, with the soft dampers, he had a better car in the turns. He had more grip on the front, better turning, but on throttle understeer. However, with a stiff dampers in the back, um, he was comfortable into the corners, as in having a good braking stability. He had no front end though, so he felt a lot of turn in entry and mid-corner understeer. However, on exit he still had a nice rotation, so could go early on the throttle. Of course, for every track there is some sort of a range where dumpers should be, according to car statics like weight, also the corner types. You want to have a more or less stiff rear dampers on high-speed tracks, and also stiff front dampers on high-speed tracks. Especially the rebound shall be stiff there. Whereas here you more or less want a little softer damper, so you give the car the possibility to move the weight around as it needs it, because you need that mechanical grip right exactly, well, where you want to have it. So that is always on the outer edges of the car, and on acceleration in the back, while turning on the front. So especially in a cornery circuit, you want the weight being possible to be moved around. However, with those dampers, you're also being able to do the fine-tuning, you know. If you think, just got that little bit of too much understeer going out of the corner, you give your rear slow bump 1 or 2 clicks harder. That gives, that makes the weight not go as quickly to the back, keeps the car rotation in, and you be able to fix that. And if you then say, okay, that's great, but still on the initial turn-in I got too much laziness in the car. There's no doubt about that. You either reduce the click, 1 or 2 clicks on the rear rebound, giving the weight free to move. However, at the same time, you need the front being able to deal with that weight, so you may also want to soften the front bump, the front slow bump. In that area, when speaking about acceleration and braking, always speaking about the slow bump. Now introducing the fast bump. That is basically just a second vent, or a second pipe that opens once a specific pressure in the damper is being hit. A pressure by a big shock like bumps, curbs, these kind of grounds, or a bump or a curb is causing the suspension to move more quickly, way more quickly than the acceleration. I mean, it is it makes very much sense, you know. So if we are, let's say, traveling around on the way towards turn 1, there you go, and then you start braking for turn 1, the rear end lifts its rear end in the air, and once you go down in acceleration, the weight comes down again a little. However, if you go over a bump, it's more like, you see, more like that. So that is a total different velocity, speaking about the dampers, how they move, how quickly they need to be moved, or how quickly the suspension gets the shock from the tires. So in more technologically advanced cars, you get slow bumps and fast bumps, slow rebounds and fast rebounds. Here in that specific car, there is just one dumper inside, so whatever the slow bump rate is also the fast bump rate. And more technologically advanced dampers, they react differently the more velocity in the movement is. And I'm pretty much interested to see what his feedback is as of right now. He should now feel the car being more in the middle, and I can also see that on the time. So despite he was really quick in the first lap last time around, so a 1:31.689 with the softest spring, he now got more confidence in the car. He gets a little bit more feedback, he gets a little bit more rotation out of the turns, and was able to put in 1:31.609. with a purple first sector, a purple final sector, especially the first and the third sector are now so much quicker. Why? With the rear end being a little bit more stiff again, there is more turning rotation and less on throttle understeer out of the turns, which help you out of turn 1, out of turn 2, out of turn 4, out of turn 13, the one that's coming now, that is third sector now, and 14. So those are the major corners where he now should get a better exit from, carrying more speed, hence why the first sector, which has initially been influenced very much by this turn and exit. So in this exit now he gets more rotation on throttle, that should overall give him the possibility to drive quicker through sector 1, and the very same applies for this turn, as it was a little too much. Maybe a little bit traction is good there. However, here in that turn, here you go on the throttle, the earlier you can go on the throttle, the more speed you carry up to turn 3, which is full flat out, and that gives you another surplus for sector 1, as in of a very good sector 1 time. And I just can tell you that his well, this time his middle sector has been purple in that 131.49. First sector has just been off 1/1000th of a second. I'm not sure whether he just gained the time from running wide here, but you see the car is bouncing up and down. It needs a little bit more dampening on the up-down movement, which could be achieved by the third springs here. Actually, we need to swap the values around in the back. Right now the suspension is set up oscillating, so the bump is being stiffer than the rebound. So the shock that the tire gets in the rear end from a bump is pretty hard, and then the rebound pushing the car back on into the position where we want it, that is sort of, yeah, softer, not taking away enough energy, so that could still be adjusted. Are we gonna go for that adjustment? As of right now, we just see him improve, which is great. Also, once again, railroad is put to static, so that doesn't evolve during the session, which is very important. So we see whatever time improvement we do. We now, you know, we started from extremes, and we now start to fiddle in the right way. And according to his feedback now, I'm gonna reassemble the suspension here, and then we see what we can do in the end with that car. It's just, yeah, as I said, we're not too much into lap times altogether. We're more like into understanding car physics. We're more like into understanding the dampers. That's what today's session is really about. Once again, 31.7. So now you see, with a more balanced car, it's just so much more quicker. So going from 31.6 and then doing 31.2, 32.2, 32.1, 32.2, 32.0, 32.3. He now, with a little damper adjustment, got into 31.6, 32.4, 31.4, 31.9, 31.7. But still, that is exactly what I was referring to as of an tire load. With the weight being moved around so quickly and so free, the tire load might have already reached its peak at the front, where more tire load does not really benefit the front end in terms of grip. So you don't feel a change from, let's say, rear bound 5 and rebound 2 or so, because the front is already at its maximum capacity, at its maximum capability on the front tire load. And if you've reached that point, that is basically, you can't really increase the front grip by just making weight moving towards the front, because the front tire has already reached its maximum, so there won't be more grip. So what you're going to do with that grip, of course you need to keep the weight at the back then, in order to support the back more, because that might still have some opportunities and some reserves left. So this is exactly what I think what's happening here right now. We have already maximized the front end grip with minimum damper settings all around, and we just didn't give too much attention to the rear end of the car. Now, with the suspension being set up the way that the dampers keep the weight a little longer at the back and also let the weight not travel as freely around, you keep the rear tire load a little higher and therefore have more grip at the rear end, have less on-throttle understeer, especially when the weight comes backwards, with the damper settings being stiffer. And that gives him a boost in the overall lap time, because he can go quick around the corners. You know, if you just have maximum grip at the front but no grip at the rear, you need to manage the rear all the time. However, if you increase the rear end grip by not losing nearly 5% of grip on the front end, that is really what makes you quick. That is what makes you go quick around the corners. That is what makes you makes you more use and more usage out of the available weight being shifted around more efficiently. Right, I'm getting lost in words, and I hope it becomes quite clear of what I'm about. As I think now is also the time you see him turning the wheel pretty much, and I think I will try to give him some feedback driving wise. Not saying I'm going to hit his lap times whatsoever, but I want to definitely try show him a little more how to be more consistent. He overturns the wheel a lot, which makes the tire smoke, which makes the tire go pretty much down in grip and wear and stuff. And if he improves that, he can go longer, a little quicker, a little more consistent, and that is really what it is about. So despite we're not having the focus today on driving lines and on driving itself, we still want to give him a little bit of feedback here. Still puts in nice lap times, no doubt. So 31.6, 32.4, 31.4, 31.9, 31.7, 32.3, 31.2, 32.2, sorry, 32.3. So that is still on the same level as in the other racing stint. Yeah, he's losing all tire performance there now. Here in that chicane, he does it really good. Here he starts over-rotating on the wheel and not balancing the car right. And I want to show him a little technique or a little sort of slow in, fast out approach that helps him preserving the tires. As we're now looking into, yeah, a sector that's already 8/10 off his PB, so we're looking into a 32.4, 32.5, I guess. And I'm gonna keep the damper settings as they are, just to have the direct comparison. Coming across the line, 32.5 even. Okay, Kevin,
Yep.
I'd like to show you something.
Okay.
And therefore you basically just jump into the garage and watch my onboard view now. I am out with the same setup that you were out.
Okay, I'm watching you.
What I noticed on your driving, your lines are pretty good, but you are sort of forcing the car around the corner, killing your tires too much. So despite we want to work a lot on dumpers and stuff, that is still something I want to show you, as that is what could makes you improve still. So especially in the middle sector, you are sort of overturning the wheel too much rather than balancing the car correctly. And I might not even go quicker than you. I might not even hit your lap times, but I'm rather less hard to the tires. You do it really good in that chicane here, like minimalistic turning on the wheel, that is good. But you do it too hard here. You should do it hard in the beginning and then open the steering wheel as good as you can. Well, as soon as you hit the accelerator again, you want to open the steering in order to be really quick around the turns, I want to say. So you make the hard turning in the beginning, and after the apex you want to open the steering already. Basically you want always to have the maximum turn on the wheel, and the moment you have the slowest speed around the corner, in order to not kill these tires. I think you get what I mean.
Yes.
So same goes for turn 1, you're hard on the brakes. Turn hard on the wheel, too bad, touch that curb. And then you want to open the wheel pretty quickly again, in order to get out of the corner. Same for this one. Here you want to turn maximum on the wheel, and there you want to open it already, to let the car move out. Open it too early. Same with turn 4, a quick turn in. After the apex you want to open it again. Same with 5. Once you hit that curb on the inside, you want to open the steering already again. And again, turning hard, opening the wheel again. You see, I'm just hard on the steering wheel for the first third of the corner, and once I get on the throttle and off the apex, I open the steering wheel again to favor the slow out, slow in, fast out approach. So I also do hit a maximum point of turning, as you've just seen it. But I just hit that when I'm as slow as possible in order to not kill the tires. And once I step on the accelerator again, I just release the steering again. Let's see if I can hit turn 4 better this time. Too quick.
Okay.
Also, what I saw on your on your driving is you sort of keep sometimes going the semi-throttle on in the car. Just wait until the car is fully turned around the corner before throttling it again, because with the throttle you keep the weight coming to the back, and you start introducing understeer into the car. So I can show you in this turn 13 and 2 very good. So you just keep rolling in the car, And once it's done the turn, best would be without that spinning. Same in 14. You just turn in and wait, and once it's turned enough, you can go on the throttle even harder and have a better exit, rather than if you sit there and keep semi-throttling it all the time. Try to show you for turn 2 again. So you just turn in and wait, and once it's done the turn in the right way, you can throttle it up so much earlier than before. You just need to be very patient with that. Just like that. Best is to see it here. Just wait. Little too early, to be honest. But you just simply wait until the car has sort of made the rotation you require, and then you can simply floor it again. Just like that.
That was a 1:31.25.
Also, for that turn 2, you can go in pretty middle and wait for the car to somewhat start pointing towards the inner apex. Oh dear, too quick there. That was a bad exit out of 2. So turn 2 is a very special turn in that regard though. I'm trying to approach it once again. So that was a perfect example of just being patient enough to wait until the car has done its rotation in that turn 9, where you usually understeer off. If you're a little patient there, you can floor the pedals so much earlier. Same here for turn 13, you just wait until the car turns around, then you can get better exits. Also, same for this final turn. Those corners are actually some kind of tight, wide, tight approaches, where you want to be tight on, semi-tight on the entry, a little wide in the middle, and then tight on the exit, in order to get the maximum momentum out of the turn. Same here with the turn 2. I'm trying to make it better this time. Stay in the middle for quite some long, and wait for the car to come to the inside. Once again, I did it wrong. Let me do one more lap, please.
No problem.
What have your tires been after your 10-11 laps?
Can you repeat?
What have your tires percentages been after 10 or the 10 laps you did?
69 for the front left.
69, okay. So I did 5.5 laps now. You did 10 laps. You were at 70 and I'm still at 88. So I'm like 3 or 4 percentages less tire wear in 5 or 6 laps. And this is mostly due to the fact, I mean, I'm on the same setup than you are. But this is mainly because I do not overstress the tires on the exit. With you semi-throttling it, you make the front tire to scrub the ground a lot more, because you're sort of trying to force the car around the corner. And I basically try to get it around the corner right on the apex to then have a easy getaway out of the turn.
1:33.6.
That is the main difference here. I just spotted that while watching you drive. So let's see if I can do that turn 2 correctly. Yeah, sort of. I mean, without that shift, I probably would have sort of got the car pointing towards the inside. I think you get though what I tried to tell you in that turn, right?
Yes.
I hate this bump for that in front of that chicane.
Me too. I hate bump in general.
Yeah. Well, some are really nice, giving you a nice feel and not affecting you too hard on the driving and stuff. But some are kinda entirely retarded. That was just too much turn-in entry. Yeah, turn-in speed. Here we go, wide, before coming tight again. Oh, too late. But same here, we're sort of tied. Wide, tied again. That is just very theoretical. The radius might just be too tight there in this final turn to really make a difference. And now I'm scrubbing the tires as well. Maybe I can get this turn 2 right and then I'll let you drive again with a different set though. There we go.
Perfect.
So that is basically what you want to try in that turn 2. That will boost you a good exit. That would make turn 3 very easy to hit. And you carry a lot of speed into 2, slow down. Then of course you can only do that when being in clean air. But you see it here good on the video. I'm sort of wide and then coming tight where it really matters, because you then don't go too wide out of the exit of 2, not compromising 3 too much, stuff like that. I will put that in the report as well. So, remembering how you drove the car around the track, what did you feel with the set you had? I mean, you were going quick, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw I was a little bit faster. The I always have enough grip on the front, and I can always feel the rotate feeling of the car when I took the corner.
Mhm.
And uh, at for some corner, like let me check, like the 5 and probably the 13 also.
Mhm.
I I felt some uh, like I'm losing the rear on the throttle. Sometimes it is sometimes I can take it. So, and sometimes this is not. I'm not confident when I lose the rear at those exits.
Mhm.
But for the entry in general, I have no problem. This is a real. I am really confident for the entries of the corners in general.
Okay. So you're confident on the entries in general. That's good to know. But yeah, that's pretty much what I expected, because the slow bump is different than the slow rebound. That makes the rear spring sort of oscillating around, making it a little bit hard and difficult for the rear to deal with incoming um, shocks. So I'm gonna swap that around to a certain extent. I'll just keep the slow rebound a little where we are, and see if with this kind of setup your issues in turn 5 and 13 are improved. Now the rear end should be able to take up the speed a lot more freely, and also accept the weight, so therefore have more grip at the rear end, which should boost you.
Okay. and in the same way, I will try to be more patient in the corner before put the throttle.
You can try so if you wish. If you feel more confident doing it just the way you did it, as for now, as into um, to really make the feel of the new setup. We can stay in the driving style as you want. However, of course, if you're saying like, okay, I would be more confident, I can still feel the suspension changes or the damper changes while also um, making use of the new technique, you can go that way too. That is up to you now. I just wanted to show it to you. As it is no big issue, it is just a help, an additional help, of course. But as we are working on dampers and feeling the damper changes, do whatever suits you most.
Yeah, but I think this is a good help for me because my biggest issue for the races are my front tires in general. I destroy them really too fast, and I think you know why.
Yeah, you're turning too much on the wheel, and while still turning a lot on the wheel, you push the accelerator, and you keep ruining the front with that. Did you hear what I just said? Yeah, about ruining the
Yeah,
front. Yeah, okay. I was not sure
yeah.
whether I had push to talk enable.
Sorry.
Yeah, so good luck. Can't wait to see and find out how you feel with the new set. What happened to the picture here? I have a bad feeling about this. Oh no. Oh, I need to admit I'm not sure whether my driving was on the video, so I may do it again for you in a specific file. Because it seemed
Okay.
like that my picture just froze last time when I drove out of the pits. No. So, watching his times though, as we have put ourselves ahead of him in the timing sheets, I wasn't able to put in purple third, but I got purple first, purple second. Yeah, that pisses me off. I think the video is broken. I'm sorry. First sector about to come up, 32-1. Yeah, I think he's now, of course, trying to put in the technique. I tried to tell him. So, I'm not sure, but I think he has abandoned that lap. 32.6. I think with that style he's now trying out, he should be able to push the throttle harder and earlier than he did before, and therefore he will feel the setup changes, whether they are to his liking or not. Very good turn 2 that. That was a very good turn 2, just as you need it. 31.9 the first sector. That is a reasonable quick one. That is even his personal best, I think. Yeah, he never did it at 31.9. So personal best sector 1. Just barely behind me, really. So he's 0.40 thousandths up on on himself. He's just a tenth away from me in the first sector. Middle sector 31.8. That is no personal best for him, but just very, very close. Let's see. Yeah, he should not touch that curb. So third sector will be bad. Yeah, try to avoid the curbs with the car there.
Yeah.
Still a 31.8. And he really did a big mistake in the final sector and even took away the power out of it. That was very good. .31.830 in the middle sector. Second quickest of what he did. I think he still lacks performance there on the rear end, but that is more due to the bump rather than to his driving or to the setup. There's nothing really you can do about that bump. It's quite heavy there. You could lift the rear end a little so to give it a little bit more travel on the suspension. Yeah, but his turn 2 is becoming really good, so he's coming closer towards the inside of the curb, of the apex of the track, and really gets into a nice spot there. 32.1 middle sector. .31.9 though. I still believe he is lacking some confidence and trying to put on the new driving technique. Do you feel an improved tire wear at the front?
Yeah, I'm front left. I'm in 88, and I don't know how many laps I
That
did.
is your 7th lap now.
Yeah, okay. there is a big difference.
Yeah, you're just
The
not as quick as right now, but that is due to you trying to change your driving approach. But therefore, I mean, your front tire wear is tremendously better than before.
Yes, before the 7th lap, I think I was between 75 and 73, I think. So there is a very big difference.
Sadly, slightly missing the apexes here in 1. He's doing it over aggressively right now, the slow in, fast out, but that will be good learning value, good learning curve. Hungaroring is the perfect track for practicing slow in, fast out, by the way. Very technical, a lot of cornery sections like here. 5, 6, 7. Here comes 8, 9 and 10. That is all one fluid. Through 9 you need to be patient. 10 is flat out then, but you need to set up for 11. Here the right hander. If you do that right, if you do the slow in, fast out correctly, especially turn 12 is a perfect example. You slow in, hard on the steering wheel, and now you can go quick out. If you get the lines entirely right. So that is a perfect example. Also, apart from the slide, line in 13 is really good. Tight, little wide, and tighter again. Very impressive stuff. Good lines there, man. That is exactly what you need.
Okay.
May want to go a little slower into turn 2, but just a tiny little bit. Oh. Sorry. That was a perfect example here. Slow in, fast out. Could go a little earlier on the throttle and then make it perfect. Also turn 13 was a really good one. Little tight, little wide, little tight again. Can also carry more speed on the exit. Little too early on the inside there again, therefore, yeah, getting that little slidey moment. That was a good turn 1 indeed. Yeah, he's getting at it. He's really getting at it. I got nothing to mourn there. That is good stuff. I mean, right now, tires are down and he's still been able to put in good lap times here. Pretty sure of that. And in the moment I say he nearly loses it. But his sectors are still pointing like
A
the
little bit
last.
funny.
Funny.
Yeah.
You mean the balance of the set or just the way the car behaves now?
Just my mistake at the turn 5 and the lost of the rear.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Well, you're finishing your 10th lap now. And what's your tire wear on the front?
84.
So 15% better than last time in the last stint.
Yes.
I mean, you have to admit that you did not go as quick, but if you would not have had the mistake in this sector 3, the penultimate lap ago, and would have just put in a steady 28.0, you could still do 32.4, and last time your 10th lap was already a 32.5, just because the car didn't turn as much anymore. How do you feel the balance with the car now on the setup? We just moved around the dumper, so everything else is still state of the art as it is intended. I would still do a minor change and see whether it suits you. Other than that, I think we're pretty much on the on the optimum right now, unless you say, or how would you say is the balance now in turn 5 and 13, where you mourned about having no traction? Is that better?
This is yes. This is better. This is better. I can do the rotate of the car and I can feel it. I I can I sorry. I am more confident at the exit for those corner. And I think also we are close to the optimum of my feeling.
Great. So I would just like to try a little final adjustment and see if that sort of any helps. And I'm going to increase the slow bump at the front a little on the third spring and massively increase the slow rebound, which should sort of keep the car at a better stable on a better position while cornering. We just try it. It might come out the entire wrong direction, but you now should just have a little bit more enhanced grip around the middle sector, trying to, yeah, as I said, increase the grip overall. Let's see if it does.
Okay.
Very good turn 5. Yeah, honestly, just from watching, there should be more grip now. So the car is more rigid, the tire load is not as much jumping up and down. That should give more grip overall on the front. Let's see if we can put it into lap time. And then I'm pretty sure he can beat my lap time. Because why not? Let's see if we can do it. .31.9 in the middle sector, definitely a good value. Can't wait to see what he can do in the final one, as tyres are still warming up. But he's really doing a better technique than before. 32.2, reasonable pace there in the final sector. Maybe go again a little slower into turn 2, so not entirely that quick. Yeah, exactly like that. That looked very good. First sector 32.2. A little down on pace. He did a 31.9 once, but yeah, he's also trying his new technique, of course. His turning inputs have been improved so much. Like, it's not that severe anymore, not that much forcing the car. 31.794. There we go. Very good middle sector. Now it's just about finding the rhythm for the final one. In my opinion, he still lacks some exit speed out of turn 13 here. A little better. Yeah, he wanted too much. That wasn't a bad final turn though. 31.8. 27.7 in the final sector. His purple is a 25.5, 27.5. But the way he's driving right now, he can be 2 or 3 tenths slower in the first couple of laps. He might be actually slower because of that, but he can keep the pace 10-15 laps longer than before, just from preserving the tires here, which is good stuff. 31.973, personal best there. Sector 1, half a tenth. He's a half a tenth up, so let's see what he can do in the middle sector. I believe he has more grip on the front end now. I just need to ask him after the session. 31.85, so he's just 11 thousandths away from his PB. And if he just puts in a reasonable final sector, which doesn't look too bad as of right here, it's gonna come across the line in a 31.556 at least. He's lapping lap times, he was just half a tenth off. Just half a tenth of his PB, and that is with preserving the front tire. So I would definitely say that the grips of the front axles have been improved. Very nice turn 2 indeed. Driving lines are pretty much spot on now. First sector, a 32.1. Sadly touching the curb there. Yeah, that's literally about it. If you would go out again, you would not be able to finish a full lap due to the server settings. So yeah, that's it. How did you feel the final setup? Was it an improvement on the front? Was it worse? How do you feel?
I think there is a really good stability of the front. I realized that when I'm driving, by testing the other way to drive, I feel the car more stable with this setup.
Yeah, that makes sense because now the front load should be more constant, therefore in general a little bit more grip, and the front end should be more stable in terms of its ride height. So um, there is not too much variance in the downforce and stuff. So that should be a big improvement there. Any further feedback from the setup right now?
Compared to the other, not really. The rest is the same. I have always the rotate effect, and I can drive with a lot of confidence. With a lot of confidence, yeah, the car. So compared to the the one just before, there is this stability of the front that can make me brake, I think, better. I I I think I was less lock the brake during this stint.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, and I like this feeling. This is really good for me.
Very nice indeed. So I'm glad you feel the improvements. I'm glad you feel help. So I hope that the report that comes in the end will give you the technical knowledge again in terms of dumpers. But I think you some sort of understood now what the dumpers do, I guess.
Yes.
So that hopefully serves the point why we were working together today. I think it became very apparent also the thing with a pit stop or with a car dropping from the car holders in the pit lane in the garage showed very good what dampers do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to thank you so much for coming, and I think it is a very educational session we had. Um, so any feedback from you that where you what you think, is there anything we could have done better, or would there still be anything you would like me um, to tell you on the report, or is that are you yes some sort of questions, anything right now?
Um, first of all, I would like to thank you for your services. I think it's a really great, really good idea for a guy like a guy as you to teach other guys. I really appreciate that idea you have. So first of all, big thanks for that. And maybe I have just one question.
Mm-hmm.
In the with the the bump and the rebound settings.
Yeah.
You said that a bigger rebound is better, right? For
Yes, because the bump is being some sort of the push from the tires below, and the rebound is some sort of the pull getting the car or pushing the car back to the ground. So um, usually most of the damper settings are a little slower bump, a little lower value in the bump, and a little stronger rebound to keep the car pushed towards the ground. So you don't want the car to be jumping upwards. You just want the car um, to enable the tires to be pushed upwards, but then the tires shall be um, or the tires shall be pushed back down to the road really quick again. So that's why you tend to have the slow rebound a little higher. Also, if you have the rebound a little lower, you have this oscillation going on in the suspension, and you don't want to have that.
Mhm. And another question:
Mm-hmm.
um, when you have to set up your car, so
Mm-hmm.
you are in the race, you are basic setup. When do you decide to touch those settings? Because um, there are many settings who are doing some same result,
Mm-hmm.
and for example, I can I think that's the way I did before. I have some troubles. I have understeer, oversteer, or whatever, and I change, for example, the anti-roll bar, and after the front spring, etc., etc. When do you decide to touch those settings? Just only for the bump, and that's it.
Um, Usually, on a physical point of view, there should always be some kind of basic damper settings, and there is a way to, I do not know exactly, but there shall be a way to calculate the correct values of the bump and the rebound settings according to some parameters of the car. So, not sure, downforce level and weight, and there are some kind of parameters. I would need to do some research on it to really understand it. But that is a basic what you have in terms of what you want to have in terms of dampers. Now, as you say, there are a lot of things that um, can be done on the car in order to reduce understeer, reduce oversteer, and whatnot. It might be though that the like anti-roll bar and general springs, they are pretty intense changes of the car. They might also change the entire balance over the run.
Hmm.
Saying in IndyCar series, for example, they adjust the rear anti-roll bar and the front anti-roll bar on the go in order to counter-steer the tire degradation.
Hmm.
Um, and dampers are something that you are sitting or determining in the garage, and they won't be changed during the run. So you want to always um, adjust the dampers according to the feel you need in the first 2 or 3 laps, to then have possibilities to adjust the anti-roll bar for the balance run. So let's say if your car starts to oversteer towards the end of towards the end of the run, and you cannot change the anti-roll bar mid-race, you may wanna go a click softer on the anti-roll bar just to get a little bit more understeer in the beginning of the stint. But once the tires go down, you can have still a good balance. Whereas with the general dampers, um, you want to approach a specific corner, or you want to approach a specific bump, especially when talking about fast bumps or fast rebounds.
Hmm.
Um, they are. It's hard to tell. I mean, as you know, they do the same job, but they. Let's say if you want to just adjust the turn in, you want to work on the front slow bump. That is the setting that determines the turn-in. Whereas the front anti-roll bar or the front springs, that not only determines the turn-in, but also determines the mid and the corner exit. So on the corner exit, the rear slow bump and the front rebound are the damper settings that are approached on the exit. So when you're fighting oversteer into the corner and having good exits, you don't want to change anything on the anti-roll bar, you just want to adjust the dampers. So what you do basically, you put all the setup dials in, you put in the basic damper settings, and then you go out and drive and you adjust corner wise when there is a general too good or too bad turn in, you adjust the dampers for doing so rather than the anti-roll bars and the springs, because the anti-roll bars and springs, they have influences on the entire car behavior at all time, whereas the bumps and the rebounds, front and rear, just be approached in specific moments on the entry or in specific moments on the exit.
Okay, so when you have a default setup, your advice is to do some laps and touch the dampers to switch the setup to my style before touching the springs,
The other way around, I would say. So first you go put your aero on, then you
Okay.
put your gearing on, then you put a suspension on to get an overall okay-ish feel everywhere. Like you want to have a global good turning car and a global stable car, so you adjust the damper, you adjust the springs and the anti-roll bars like that. And if you then do further laps, you soon start to feel okay. I have a little bit of a poor turn in, or I have a little bit of a poor exit. And in the first event, you soften the slow front bump, and in the second event, you stiffen the slow rear bump. But that is only specific to the entry on corner entry or your poor exit when coming around the corner. That has, if you change it on the anti-roll bar or on the springs, you change it globally for the entire car in every circumstances. So beside entry, also the mid and also the exit, whereas the dampers can do the fine tuning.
Okay. Okay, I see. I see what I have to do, because often my feeling often is that I set everything but not the bump and the rebounds,
Yeah.
and I found a balance that suits me.
Mm?
But I'm a little bit lost because I have my car, my setup looks like well for me,
Yep.
and then I have the damper settings I'm in front of, and I don't know how to do it because my feeling is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So in that point, I have to look really far to see the little bit thing I can change to feel it better.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you can say in this situation. That's what I will have to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dealing with dampers and getting them spot on is a total different level, and surely took me the longest to understand. And I even fully haven't understood yet, but yeah, you're always learning.
Yeah, you always learn. You're learning. Sorry.
Yeah. Right, further questions?
Yeah, that's it for me. And again, really a big thanks for what you do.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Appreciate you coming towards me and also taking lessons. That is a big part of it. So, thank you so much. Quickly finish the video and then be right back.
Thank you.
So guys, that was it. That was the Simracing Academy session there with Kevin Morville, and we were talking a lot about dumpers. That was a very a dumpers only 2 hour session here, and yeah, by really going through that session, you re-enable your mind. I learned a lot today again. So of course you always have a specific thinking, a specific feeling about what dumpers do. And when you actually see the car dropping on the ground and see how once the car keeps bouncing and the next time when the stumpers are stiff, the car drops and that's it. Um, that also tells you a lot about car geometry right now. Will be a huge help for me in the future, I'm pretty sure. Will also be a huge help for Kevin, I think, especially as soon as he receives his report. That's going to be a game changer for him. Yeah, guys, that's gonna be it. Kevin, thank you so much for being here in the 2 hour session with me. Thank you for ordering 2 sessions of me. By the way, Kevin is Patreon member of me, so he got this as a 20% off discounted price. If you want to know more about that, make sure to check out the www.patreon.com/Michi. If you're interested in Simracing Academy and getting a session on with me, mail me at simracing@michi-hoyer.com. And make sure to include what car you want to do, what track you want to do, what simulator you want to do, what is your main target, what do you struggle with, where do you want to work on, what's your sim racing background. If that was for quick to you, check out the description below in the video, because there you find all the information written in stone or written in the white web page. Again, so yeah, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Kevin, once again, big thank you for ordering, and big thank you also for conducting this so well, for actually putting the changes into lap time, putting the changes into balance and into proper feedback. And that's something very important. Kevin gave me proper feedback. I expected some things to happen. I saw him driving the car. I had some expectations of what he will say, and he 95% matched that. So that was good stuff. That is what you need to give back to an engineer. Only if your feedback is good, then your engineer will do anything, or will be able to do anything towards your improvement. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you, Kevin, for the time, and see you there for the next episode of Sim Racing Academy. Goodbye.